Here's where it ends up. Alexander Kataj is a Serbian soccer player who, until the other day, played professionally for the Galaxy in Los Angeles. Last week, Kataj's wife posted criticism online of the looters she was watching wreck Minneapolis. A lot of people felt that way. Kataj's wife wrote in Serbian, which she speaks, and yet someone noticed them anyway and then attacked her for writing them. She deleted the post very quickly, but it was too late. Now, we should be clear that her husband, the soccer player, may not even have known that she wrote the posts. His wife was in Chicago when she wrote them. He was practicing with his team in Los Angeles, but it didn't matter. Protesters dutifully arrived at the stadium to call for his firing. So the management of the LA Galaxy forced Kataj to apologize for his wife and then to denounce her. Denounce his own wife. Then they made him endorse Black Lives Matter, which he did, and then they fired him anyway, and then they attacked him on his way out for something he didn't even do and may not even have known about, that was written in a language almost nobody in America understands. That's what happened. The team's president, Chris Klein, sounded pleased by the whole thing. Quote, "In the end," he said, "we have to look at what the club stands for and who we are." Who we are. It's a good question, actually. Who are we? Well, at this point, we're becoming North Korea. We now believe in blood guilt. We punish people for the sins of their relatives. We don't allow individuals to have private thoughts. We hurt anyone who disagrees with orthodoxy. We demand that the innocent plead guilty to things we know they didn't do and then read their confessions in public to prove they've been re-educated. And then we brag about doing all of this. Obviously, something terrifying has descended on America, and it's easy to see if you stand back what has happened. Terrible ideas suddenly have free reign. Why? Because no one pushes back. Those ideas are met with supine weakness. You've seen it happen 1,000 times. Some professional activist says something crazy and destructive because that's what professional activists do, always. Defund the police! What's changed, what's brand new, is that no one in charge has the stones to disagree. So the rhetoric gets even crazier and more destructive. Kill the police! Okay, what next? UCLA is now investigating a professor for the crime of reading Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail out loud. Meanwhile, also at UCLA, another professor called Gordon Klein is under police protection tonight. What did Gordon Klein do wrong? Well, when minority students asked to be exempted from final exams after George Floyd died, Klein refused. He said, everyone of all colors has to take the exam. UCLA immediately suspended him. Students threatened to kill him. Now, Klein has police cars outside of his house. All of this is happening right now in America. The question is anyone defending these guys? Defending the right to give exams or to read Martin Luther King out loud? Well, probably not. No one's defending anyone anymore. It's every man for himself. Meanwhile, the worst ideas, the ones that could harm all of us, are growing in power. Last week, the cosmetics company L'Oreal announced it was hiring a black transgender model called Monroe Bergdorf. Bergdorf will sit on the company's newly formed Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Board. Bergdorf had worked at L'Oreal before, if you follow fashion you know that, but got fired 3 years ago for writing this specifically addressed to white people. We're going to quote from it. Quote, "Your existence, privilege, and success as a race is built on the backs, blood, and death of people of color. Your entire existence is drenched in racism. Racism isn't learned, it's inherited, and consciously or unconsciously passed down through privilege. Once white people begin to admit that their race is the most violent and oppressive force of nature on earth, then we can talk," end quote. Now, Monroe Bergdorf got canned for writing that. L'Oreal announced that crackpot racial theories were contrary to, quote, diversity and tolerance toward all people, irrespective of their race. That, of course, is true. Or it was true. It's not true anymore, apparently, at least now at L'Oreal. L'Oreal has apologized for ever supporting tolerance and diversity and has now rehired Bergdorf. The idea that racism can be inherited and passed down is now consistent with L'Oreal's Black Lives Matter-inspired HR policies. Some employees there must be worried. We should all be worried. This is terrifying. We should fight against sweeping racial attacks like this with everything we have, not because we're sympathetic to the specific group they're going after, but because it is wrong, always, no matter what, no matter who the target is. No child is born evil. Sin cannot be inherited. That's insane. Certain racial groups are not morally superior to other racial groups, and we should never condemn any ethnicity as, quote, the most violent and oppressive force of nature on earth. That's Nazi talk. I'm sorry, it is. It is. Today, the left has singled out one ethnic group to hate and punish, but tomorrow, it will be another ethnic group. Bigots never stop with just one. And it will be every bit as wrong when they do that to other people as it is wrong now, because it's always wrong. We have an entire monument on the National Mall in Washington dedicated to the idea that in America, citizens are judged by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. We don't always live up to that ideal, obviously, but it's got to be the ideal. If we give up on that, if we stop trying to treat people equally under the law, all people, all Americans, all citizens, then we're done. At that point, this country is simply a collection of angry tribes, and violence is inevitable. That's where we're heading tonight at very high speed.